Shelley with the show live, local, topical, and relevant. Let's check the call. Go to the phones until Carolyn calls in. Let's go to Jonathan incoming. Hey, Jonathan, thanks for listening, my friend.
Hey, Shelley. Just a preface, I'm a white man, but I think if it's not obvious from my voice, but
I wasn't going to say it.
I know. But my daughter's smiling at me as I said that. But the whole Shedeur thing, if I'm a head coach, I would not care what color he was. I just would not want his attitude and especially his baggage of his dad coming with him.
Well,
and this is coming from a Falcons fan.
Right. What baggage did Dion have? Because, he's a college head coach, married, father, raises.
The baggage, I think, is dad's going to be calling. It's going to be like Wyatt and Shedeur in. Y'all are crazy for not playing Shedeur. I think there's just going to be a lot of that.
That's fair. But you'd have to think that would have come from Archie Manning or Phil Simms. His two sons played in the NFL, especially Phil Simms. I'm a Giant fan, and Phil is probably, he's not easy to deal with. He's not even easy to deal with as an announcer. So, you know what I mean? That concern wasn't with his sons. I think if you have any former player whose son is going into the game at the professional level, that's always going to be a concern. And you just have to be a team or general manager or a coach that can tell that parent, hey, slam up, shut up. Just like if it's Little League, you know what I mean? The same thing. But that wouldn't keep me from – I wouldn't have drafted Shedeur for the same reason I wouldn't have drafted Diego Pavia. I don't like short quarterbacks. I just don't. You have D linemen that are 6'5", 6'6" now. I've never liked short quarterbacks. If I'm as a player personnel fan, you know what I mean? We're all general managers as fans. But that's the only reasons I wouldn't have. But my point about Diego Pavia was really about why people aren't jumping up and down that as a Heisman finalist, he wasn't drafted at all. But last year, this time, it was sports talk after sports talk about Shedeur.
Right. No, and Shedeur had an attitude, and he did have the stats to back it up. But he just had an attitude that as a head coach, I would be.
I hear you.
Regret.
And I'm not arguing with you. I don't disagree with you. But I think going forward, teams are going to have to, with NIL money being the way it is, teams are going to have to learn how to put that to the side, because these kids are coming in with bank accounts bigger than some of the players on the teams. You know what I mean?
And some of the coaches, bigger than some of the coaches.
Absolutely. Great call, Jonathan. Carolyn's here now. I've got to go to my guest. Thanks for listening, Jonathan. And tell your daughter thank you for listening as well.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. So it's Wednesday. You know what that means. My sister, former Gwinnett County Congresswoman, Carolyn Bordeaux, joins me every Wednesday at 8:06. How are you, my dear sister?
Hello. Wow, it's been an eventful day.
Eventful day.
A lot.
A
lot has gone down.
So I told people we're obviously talking about the Supreme Court decision today around voting. But before you tell me your thoughts, I've got to ask this first question. Do you agree with your fellow Democrats that we're going back to Jim Crow?
Whoa, who's saying that?
Raphael Warnock. Raphael Warnock said that.
Oh, okay. Well, yes. We give a little license to politicians to stretch the.
So this is so you would agree this is
no.
hyperbole.
I would say that is a bit over the top.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
But I can understand that folks are upset.
Right.
But this is really going to change a lot of things, and I don't think people have fully processed how much this is going to change. So
good or bad?
It's
I'm assuming you mean bad for everyone, Democrats and Republicans.
Well, I think they're not all bad. I think it's worth thinking about a bit. I do think in the near term, right, this is going to be certainly bad for Democrats. A lot of southern states are just to wipe out districts that support black candidates.
And
I think, and that will represent a real loss of power.
But go ahead, finish your thought. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'll have a but too. I have a but there. But I think, over the long term, the silver lining, if you will, is that it is going to require the Democratic Party to really rethink the coalition that it has. And my black friends to know that the representation is not necessarily power. And to seek power, right, as opposed to just having somebody who looks like you. And I just think there's some real opportunities there to recut the electorate, to recut, what a Democrat is and what a Republican is. So
this is why I love having you on these big news days, because I had not given it. So I said I thought the ruling on its legal merits was the right ruling. But then I see Marsha Blackburn talking about getting rid of Tennessee's one Democrat district and redrawing it as a Republican district. And I'm thinking to myself, how do you do that? Then I see Florida's going to add 4 Republican seats. And my opinion earlier in the show was I don't want to see this turn into where states all become red. And they're safe red seats. And the reason why I say that is because I'm a Republican voter. I will get nothing done for myself because they're in a safe seat. They won't have to fight. And they'll only listen to the lobbyists and their donors.
Right. And so there may be windows for nonpartisan redistricting, for real just drawing the lines, maybe having a computer program, just draw them around communities of interest, could get the people out of it in ways that are much more fair. So I don't know, it's one of those things where I understand the concern, and I do think there's going to be a really, difficult period here, but it may open the door for some really interesting and reforms that we've been talking about before on the show that we both agree really
right. Absolutely. So you said something, and this is why I like to have you on, Carolyn, because you say the things that Democrats think but won't say out loud. Because a lot of these seats, look at God rest his soul, rest in peace, but look at a David Scott. Got challenged a couple years ago. I worked on a campaign, Dr. Honeycutt, closest challenge that he's had probably in his long career in Congress, but a safe seat. Terry Sewell in Alabama. All of these people are in safe seats, and they're there until, unfortunately, they pass away. But still, I love Terry Sewell. She's a wonderful woman, but Selma's still Selma. And so, like you said, what does power represent if it's just representation means just color?
The thing I go back to often was I was in a town hall, and there was a black man who asked me this question, and he was very frustrated with the Democrats, and he was like, "Why is it I keep voting for the Democrats? I'm represented now by a Democrat, and it was me in that case,
Right.
But I am not getting the things I need. I need affordable health care. I want voting rights. I want, to make sure that that's not threatened. Why am I, for him, very important was gun control. These are the things I want. Am I hitting this button?
Right.
And I'm not getting anything out of it. And I talk about Democrats. They have not put together the coalition to deliver the things that they say that they're going to deliver. And that is what we need on, as opposed to, the race or skin color, that
right.
or ethnic identity or things like that.
Right.
And so maybe this is a chance to change the conversation and to build that common ground to actually deliver some of these things that I candidly think this community really needs.
And you're talking about the community. When you say community, you mean African Americans.
African Americans, but all of us, right? We are not actually in. There are distinct communities, here, but it is. We all need these things, right?
I see what you're saying. Right,
something that just a Black person needs.
Right.
Yes.
So the devastating blow that I'm hearing the African American reps say, is that the devastating blow to their own careers, or do you think it's to the African American community at large? I think it's to their own careers. I
tend to think so. Yes, yeah. I tend to think it is their careers. I don't, I do think, I don't want to minimize, though, that there's going to be some real loss in the short term, while kind of the Black community, the leaders, people there figure out how to build real power. Right, through the system as it exists. And the other thing, when we're talking about gerrymandering only exists if you think the coalition is static, right? If you think that person is always going to vote Republican or is always going to vote Democratic. If the electorate is recut, and to some degree that's what Trump did, right? He brought in Latino voters. He brought in working class voters. He changed the Republican coalition. If you're changing and Democrats need to do the same. They need to come back and rebuild a coalition that cuts across these gerrymandered lines.
Right.
And maybe this is a chance to do that.
Because I don't see, because to be quite honest with you, right? So let's say in Florida, they're going to add 4 Republican seats, right? If you have a competitive Democrat Party, right, and you're a Latino man or a Black man or a working class man who voted for Trump 3 times, but the Republican Party hasn't given you anything that you want or need, you will either stay home or vote for the Democrat if he's saying the things that you want to hear.
That's right. And really what we need, Shelley, is we need more swing voters. We need people not to see the party as like a sports team or something like that.
Man, Carolyn,
they need to see the party as delivering for them, as opposed to just sort of this team spirit that whatever it does, it can't do anything wrong. You know?
You're exactly right. So, the only people that should be on the Democrat team or the Republican team are those people paid by the Democrats or Republicans to be on that team. Every single regular voter should be not on the party team and should be. I'm listed in Vote Builder as a swing voter because when I used to live in Atlanta and places like that, you can only vote for Democrats. But because I voted for Obama twice, I'm listed as a swing voter. And for me personally, because I know how I'm going to vote mostly 99% of the time, I like that because I end up getting mailers from everybody.
Yep.
And I'm catered to. I'm pitched to. Hey, Shelley, give me your vote.
Exactly. If you are a swing voter, you want both parties to come to you on bended knee, right, to get your vote. And, there are communities that do this very skillfully. And I put it, the Jewish community and the Jewish vote, right, is something that is, they're less than 3% of the population. But they are able to really exert an amount of influence and power, even though, they don't have, they're not districts drawn specifically for them. They're not, but they are able to make both parties come to them and try to meet their needs. And that kind of model, I think, is something the Black community needs to think about. How do you make the parties come and meet your needs?
Right.
But let me just one more thing on that redistricting piece, right? Texas redrew the lines, assuming, that the Latino voters would stay with the Republicans. But the Latino voters are switching. And so they may have drawn these districts in a way that actually undermines what they wanted to accomplish. So,
absolutely.
Again, depends on the electorate itself.
Right. And the electorate shifts all the time, especially when you don't deliver what you're promising to deliver when come election time. Oh man, this was one of our best sessions yet. This was a great one. You said some really things. I'm clipping this segment and drop on my Facebook. Feel free to share it. This was some good stuff.
Right.
Good to talk to
All
you.
right.
I will
Good to
talk
talk
to
to
you
you.
next Wednesday, my sister. Carolyn Bordeaux,
Okay.
ladies and gentlemen.
Take care. Have a good night.
We'll be right back. 404-872-0750, 1-800-WSB Talk.